Welcome to the Region Free Gamers podcast, and on this episode, we're going to talk about the team that managed to do what 16 other teams couldn't do before them.
Hello to everyone and welcome to the Region Free Gamers podcast, the podcast that is fluent in gaming. In case you couldn't quite tell by the accent, this is Jeff and I'm going to be your host for today's episode, where we are going to be taking yet another look at a British gaming icon, and that is of the developer and publisher Team 17. But as always, before we get into the meat of this wonderful, delicious meal, we do want to say thank you to everyone who's been supporting us over this whole year, even through COVID and through lockdown. It warms our hearts even massively that even some people are donating some of their hard-earned cash towards supporting us via Patreon. So if you also feel inclined, please go check us out on Region Free Gamer Podcast on Patreon, and also please continue to share the podcast with your friends, with your family, with people who you think would be interested. And any sort of download, any click, we really appreciate it. It doesn't need to be money. It doesn't need to be a share. Just continue to enjoy the episodes, and that's more than we could ever ask for. So, on to my co-hosts for this episode. So, it's actually a bit of a Commonwealth posse that I rounded up on this one. We've got a special guest from my beloved UK as well to help us round up a bit of a Queen's special, a bit of a jubilee of British gaming. But first up is our great cousins from Canada, one of our favourite of Commonwealth countries. There are others that we also love, but that is Paul Romalo over in the Yukon. Hello, Paul.
Hey, Jeff. If this is anything like Overcooked, we're going to want to kill each other by the end of the episode and have a lot of fun, too.
So who's going to be claiming independence first? Is it you or me from Britain? What's the bets?
Wait a minute. How can you guys claim independence? Who are you claiming independence from?
I'm living in Holland, so I'm going to claim independence because I'm not in the country anymore.
Oh, I see.
Angle.
Oh, we're far too polite. You're going to claim independence way before I do.
And a big important question for you, Paul: has the PS5 made it up there yet to the Yukon, or are you still waiting for the lorries to arrive with all the hundreds of thousands of PS5s?
Oh, yeah, no, are you kidding? This is a wasteland for PS5s. I have one buddy who has one, and he did that thing that people do where he, posted it on Facebook, which is fine, but when you post the picture of the PS5 and boxes of three controller boxes along with it, then it's obnoxious. I don't know what the rules are. Nobody's codified this, but as far as I'm concerned, single picture of PS5, cool, I know you have one, I can go to your house. PS5 plus extra accessories? No, I don't want to see that.
Yeah, that's the limit. And free controllers.
Yeah, now you're just rubbing my face in it.
Yeah. But, yeah, I guess, you got to get on the controller collecting early these days, haven't you? You got to get that wall of controller boxes ready to go that I see people seem to love to do. So, our special guest, onto this person. So, we've had him on the show before. As I said, he's from the UK. And if he doesn't mind me using his real name first, this is Ryan Medlock, otherwise known to many of our listeners as the Video Game Bear. Hello, Ryan.
Hello. Thank you for having me back.
Yeah, so could we just make sure that we're clear? You didn't bribe us. There's no sort of threat that that you had to come back on. We actually were interested in having you back. So I just want to make sure we clear up any misunderstanding there. This isn't some sort of legal, issue we have in here.
I was almost sure you told me I better come back on the show or you're going to break my legs, but whatever. It's good to be here. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you're happy.
I'm very happy. It's a pleasure.
So as you can tell, there's probably going to be too much Britishness in this episode. It's probably going to be the weirdest Region Free Gamer podcast of the lot.
I just think
it is
like
a jubilee
an episode.
After all.
It's like an episode of Monty Python, that's all.
Yeah.
Ryan's not quite dead yet. His legs are broken, but he's still good.
He's not pushing up the daisies, not yet. So, obviously, Ryan, you joined us. Now, remind me what episode? Because it was the King of 98 episode you joined us. Which one was it?
That's right. It was it Banjo-Kazooie versus some other game?
Probably a game that lost.
I think it won, annoyingly.
No,
I can't imagine
no,
why.
it didn't.
It didn't win. No, that's what did win in the end. I can't remember.
It was Metal Gear Solid, the game that happened to win the entire tournament.
Of course.
And we brought Ryan on because we needed someone to stump for Banjo because Banjo was such an underdog, and we know Ryan loves Banjo. Little did we know that Arnie, the destroyer of tournaments, would actually want to pick Banjo over Metal Gear, and the episode turned into this nail-biting situation where I'm like, Arnie, I know you love Banjo, but this is wrong. Ryan's a guest. I can't influence him, but I can influence you. And it was a nail biter, man. I thought Banjo was gonna go. Ozzy would have had an aneurysm if Banjo had won. It would have been really great. But anyway,
what can you do? Eh? Maybe next time.
Maybe next time.
I remember I was I think I was driving back. I was in the back of a car on the way back from a skiing trip. I was in the car for like 3 hours, and I listened to the episode, and I just have vivid memories of physically shaking when we got towards the end, and Arnie was just not being clear with what way he was going. And I was like, I can't. I've joined this podcast recently. I can't, in good conscience, stay if this goes on. So it was a pivotal moment. Pivotal. So thank you, Arnie, for doing the right thing. So Ryan.
Yes.
Obviously, I've mentioned your handle in your video game bear.
Yeah. That's right.
Many people will know you through Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of want just to give you a bit of an opportunity, let the audience get to know you a bit.
Yeah,
so
sure.
few questions. I hope you don't mind. It's not going to be too invasive.
Too personal.
Yeah. But obviously we can't, I don't think we've got through a single episode this year without mentioning lockdown, COVID, yada, yada, yada. But, how has lockdown been for you from a gaming perspective? Is there anything that you've been able to get to on your back catalogue that's been really memorable or anything like that?
Well, I did sit down and play most of my old Sega games, which was quite a good experience.
Sega Saturdays.
Yeah.
Sega Saturdays.
That was a lot of fun. I played Crusader Ascenti. I've never played that before. That was a nice little Zelda clone on the Mega Drive.
Mm-hmm.
Finally beat Luna, the Silver Star, again. Kept meaning to do that for quite a few years. So
Nice.
Yeah, it was quite a busy year for me. I got into Ring Fit Adventure, and I managed to get myself a little bit more buff, lost a lot of weight. Which is quite amazing for me. It does work, amazingly enough.
But is it fun? I mean, in all honesty.
The main campaign does get a bit boring after a while, so I started doing just the regular reps and things like that.
Yeah.
But
But do you feel it's something that you could have, after a while you realise I could just be doing this without having to spend
you do kind of get that way, because
I
think what started to make me a little bit bored was just setting up the damn thing every time.
Oh, yeah.
Registering your movements, strapping it onto your leg, getting the ring con ready, doing a warm-up, and saying, I could be doing something else now. But no, it was all good. So, yeah, it's been a pretty good year in terms of games, I guess. I managed to catch up on a lot of my older games. So
that's all good.
Yeah.
I mean, and speaking of older games, obviously, when anyone peruses your feed, it's very clear that you have a lot of love for the 16-bit era.
Yeah, that's true.
What is it about those consoles that keep pulling you back in to play games? Is there something that's for you?
Well, I kind of find 8-bit and especially 16-bit games a bit more approachable, because it's quite nice to have a game you can be done with in just a day.
That's the thing about a lot more of your modern games. There seems to be the logic of the more hours someone has to spend in it, the more value that someone feels that they're getting from it. But I mean, for some people, Super Metroid is a pretty long game as well.
Yeah.
But I guess once you've completed it a couple of times, you know your way around.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's probably just muscle memory. I've played it so many times now.
Yeah.
It'll just be a couple of hours in.
Yeah, true. So last question. Yeah. Well, it's a bit of a two-parter. So we're here talking about British developers.
Mm-hmm.
But something that's also clear on your feed is that you have maybe you realize it or you don't, or it's intentional or not, but you also seem to really enjoy your European-based games from other developers from the continent, as we call it over in the island. You know, is there a series or a game that you think, look, North America, because that's where a lot of our listeners are, that they wouldn't be aware of a certain game or series that maybe is, you know, you think is worthwhile for a non-Europeaner to dip their toes into?
I'd say there's a good amount of Master System games which never came out over there. I did play a good game called Danan the Jungle Fighter on the Master System lately. And that was just a really nice, little 2D platformer. I don't think it came out in the US for whatever reason. As for actual game series, I probably would recommend Asterix. That's very European.
Yeah, that's the go-to.
Some surprisingly decent platformers.
What is it about platformers that European developers seem to love so much?
I guess they're sort of seen as easy to make. Like back in the mid-90s, everything was a platformer. Maybe it was just easy to do. Like everything nowadays is like an open world adventure.
So you're saying Europeans are lazy?
That's true.
Pretty much.
I think I don't know, Paul. If you look at your home country, you know, from your origins. If I think about the time I spent in Italy, I think I can see a little bit of laziness creeping in here and there. It's just different work practices, isn't it? There's no such thing as lazy. You just get lazy people, not lazy countries.
Of course.
Ooh, awkward. And so the other part to that question,
they're core Italian listeners.
All those Italians that listen to us. Ryan.
Yes.
So obviously we're here talking about Team 17, which we're going to get into quite a bit as we go. But it would be great to hear from you at least. You know, have you got any sort of connection with this company? Is there something that, you know, really kind of pulls on your heartstrings for Team 17?
Well, I think like the rest of you guys, I think it's mostly the Worms games, which I know Team 17 for, and I've got a lot of fond memories of Worms. Like, I think I played the first game on the Amiga and then the revised edition on PC. So I don't know. It's like hard to think of anything other than Worms that Team 17 has done, but they have a fairly good catalogue.
So it's a short episode, is what you're saying?
Pretty much. We can just talk about how great Worms Armageddon is, and just call it a day, I guess. But
wrap it up nicely.
Yeah, but no.
Cheers.
There's quite a few fond memories of Team 17. Like I remember Alien Breed, and I guess something more modern would probably be the ukulele games. Like, I know it's not developed by them, but they publish things like that.
Yeah, they can take some credit.
Yeah.
And Paul, same for you, mate. You know, it's I'm pretty sure you've been on the other episodes we've done on the British developers. Is there anything specific about Team 17 that has made you look forward to this one?
Well, it's all about really two things, right? It's about the games that I've played, and now having read up on them a little bit more thoroughly, just kind of, you know, seeing their story. Those are really the two things. So if you're talking about the games that I've played, Ryan's mentioned it, it's Worms, right? Like, I played Worms on PC way back in the day. It was unlike anything that I had tried before. It was hilarious and cute and challenging, but not obnoxiously so, right? And then you have the story of the company, which is, as far as I can tell, just completely unique, right? From start to finish, their path through the industry has been really weird, and I can't wait to talk about it.
And I think with that, Paul, we can pretty much crack on into Team 17 and the kind of the sprouts of growth that they saw, and going into their first kind of era. And I think, like we've done with the other episodes, we know where this is going. It's going towards the Amiga.
Of course.
You can't escape the Amiga.
No, any European-centric episode, it's just automatic. We're going to the Amiga.
Yeah. I tell you what, we're already 3 episodes in now, and that little part of me really wants to get that Terminator 2 Judgment Day Amiga set. And every so often, it pops up on eBay, and I'm like, oh, look at the size of that Judgment Day box. God. I know it's a terrible game, or maybe even the Batman set, because 2 massive gaming icons, movie icons even in our childhood. And imagine today a PS5 console, but it's just Arnold Schwarzenegger on a Harley.
Are you
like, yeah, all right.
kidding me? I would buy 10 of them.
Exactly. So Amiga, what a wonderful console. But let's just make sure we take a step back here. And let's look at the kind of the origins of Team 17. So I don't want this to sound like a Wikipedia, reprisal or anything like that. But essentially, what I found really interesting about the way Team 17 set up was once again, it's this entrepreneurial aspect of how you could just open a shop, decide to open a publisher seemingly out of the back of your car, and you're in the gaming industry.
Yeah.
It is, and this is what Michael Robinson did up in Wakefield. So Wakefield, for all of those who wish to visit the UK after this series, this is in a wonderful place called Yorkshire, which is a part of where my heritage is from. I love it up there, and near a city called Leeds, which is another nice northern, to me anyway, northern city. To some it's in the south, to most it's in the north. And essentially, so he was running a shop, a bit of a chain called Microbyte, and a video game publisher, which I think he set up a few years earlier. And what I really like is the intention. So he says the intention was to try and find untapped game development talent out in Europe, or even in the UK at least, to try and essentially become a publishing arm so he could sell his own games in his own stores.
Yep.
It seems pretty straightforward, and it seems like that sounds really British in the way that we set things up. I'm not too sure, Paul, like in Canada, did you have similar things where people were just creating their own stores and making their own games and shoveling it through there?
Oh, if they were, I certainly wasn't aware of it. The only corollary I can think of really is Nihon Falcom, which started in a very similar manner. They were just a store selling Amiga 2 computers. They had a little room in the back where kids could come in after school and program games, and then eventually they just started selling those games in the store, and history is made. It sounds very, very similar to what Team 17 eventually. Was it even Team 17 at the time? Was it Team 10 still, or what? But it sounds like a very similar story.
Yeah, indeed. So essentially, what's happened was where the name came from. So they pulled in this 19-year-old called Andreas Tadic. He's a Swedish developer, a programmer. And he was pulled in because he looked like he was making a decent game, which apparently looked, and I'm going to use air quotes here, was shite looking. So if you're from Northern... Paul, does it convey exactly what it needs to convey?
It conveys
it's a very
exactly.
English term.
A programmer making a game, he is not an artist. That is it.
No. So this shite-looking game. So essentially, this group of people. So Michael Robinson, there was a group of them who created the publisher. He got him introduced. Andreas introduced to Rico Holmes, who is pretty notable in a lot of the early games of Team 17. So he said, "Look, you're a programmer. You're the artist. Get together and make something out of the talent that we've got here." And this led to them creating a small, like you would have done in any time you kind of create a name out of nothing, and they created Team 7. So Team 7 is where you get the majority of Team 17. But essentially what happened was they created their first game. It was called Miami Chase. It's when you look at it, it's basically Miami Vice in a version of a top-down racer. It's so unoriginal, but I think we were saying about the platformers, this is just what games were back then. Top-down, like there were no Gran Turismos, there were no Top Gears, things like that. It was very simplistic. Did either of you guys look into this one at all?
I can't say that I did.
No. It basically looks like every other game of that era, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. So that's and that is kind of where Team 17, where they started off. Their games they were no Psygnosis, to put it bluntly, who were visually just a stunning developer. They had some amazing artists do some work there and publisher, obviously. So they basically they brought in this Team 7 and got them working internally for 17-bit, 17-bit being the publisher. So Team 7 gets pulled in, they start working with 17-bit. They decide, I think it was in 1990, they agreed, we're just going to merge it all together and create Team 17. So that's a bit of the background as to where the name comes from, which is, it sounds like it should be something that's kind of merged from, is a creation out of a merger.
It really
but
does.
this was a merger without EA involved. So it sounds good. It sounds good.
More optimistic.
It is a bit more. There is one name in this group that actually is incredibly important to Team 17. And this is a lady named Debbie Bestwick. Or Bezic? No, not Bezic, Bestwick.
Yep.
And she was sales manager at Microbyte, and was pulled into 17-bit to be commercial support for these two young men to get the game out. But Debbie Bestwick is now the current CEO of Team 17.
And she has done a heck of a job for herself, man. Like when you kind of go from 2010 onward, exactly what she's done with that company, it's stunning. Absolutely stunning.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, we're obviously going to get into the later parts. We're going to get into where they are today. But I mean, their value, their share value is now $1 billion.
Oh my God, it's bonkers.
It's absolutely phenomenal. And this is what is so great about this story for me, is that they've managed to steer clear of mergers that fundamentally are there to break them apart and strip them of all their talent. I mean, we saw it with Bullfrog, where EA just step in, they take out the good stuff, people get marginalized, and they just churn out game after game.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's where it kicks off. But I think one of the things that I think that the funny story and something I'm going to have some questions for you guys on actually is around the actual publications, the magazines, and the influence that the media has on video games. So essentially, to boil it down, what happened, they were not very happy in around 92, 93. They weren't happy with what Amiga Power were giving in terms of scores. So they were like, right, you're giving us low scores. We're not happy with that. So, power politics comes into play. We're going to make sure we limit what we give you. We're going to make sure that, we're not going to give you any copies. We're going to give it to even though it's within the same publisher, within future publishing, we're going to give it, copies to other people, but you're not allowed to play it. And it gets really, really petty.
This might be my favorite part of the whole story. I love petty beef, especially between I'd never seen anything like it.
And I wonder, Paul, we're in a situation where today, because this is where I kind of started thinking, okay, in the 90s, magazines were still utterly vital for publishers, for developers to get their games in the right eyeballs on their games. Magazines were absolutely vital. Today, obviously, magazines are just not seen as that necessary because of the internet. But we've even now transcended, in my opinion, the internet. So IGN, GameSpot, these websites, Kotaku, they're becoming more and more, I wouldn't say irrelevant, but I feel like they're just not getting the hits that they used to.
I would say they're becoming, you know what, actually, yeah, not quite irrelevant, but definitely diluted.
Yeah, I'd sort of agree. I think they've become more interested in sort of reporting on the stories about the industry itself.
Yeah, like any Joe can go online and do a review, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
And that's what I'm wondering. So obviously back then they felt the reviewers weren't giving their games. No, they were giving their games like 17%, 22%, like scores that today are like impossible to get.
Yeah,
should be impossible to get. But so they weren't unhappy with that. But today anybody can be a reviewer. You go onto YouTube and everyone's trying to do it.
yeah.
So all the publishers are trying to get their copies in the hands of these micro influencers and general influencers and YouTubers and content creators, whatever word name you
And
want.
video game bears.
exactly.
And
yes.
video game bears. But who do you think is more? Maybe it's not a question of more or less, but maybe are we in a better time today where you've got your average Joe or your average Jane giving their review of a copy of a game they got for free versus a publication which might have editorial guidance and where they want to go because of where they're getting. So I guess I'm asking, maybe Ryan, is which do you think is better for the consumer of where you can get an honest opinion? Was it back in the 90s or today?
Well, as a superstar influencer myself, I would probably say maybe... Well, that's difficult to say because magazines back then were probably being paid off by companies to give them high scores. So has it really all changed that much, to be honest? Like, you can quite happily go on to or chat to any influencer and just say, make a really good video about this game. So I don't know. I don't think things have changed that much.
But is it then, I mean, when you look at like a Metacritic and you see 80 professional reviews and 2,000 user reviews, you're like, oh my God, where do you start?
That's true.
I would definitely say today is better. I don't think there's any question. Look, it's funny, that whole Amiga Power thing, that all started because the Amiga Power guys thought that Team 17 was paying off another publication to give them a good review to begin with, and it started this whole beef situation, which I adore. So it's not really that much different today. We just have more voices, and if you're looking for, an honest review of a game, it's better to have more voices. Like, it used to be back in the day that I would go on to, that I'd buy a GamePro magazine, which just awful GamePro magazine. And they'd have some games that had these reviews, and I would make my purchases based on those reviews, and sometimes they were right, and sometimes they were just completely wrong. So, it was, and that was like the only thing we had. We had that, and we had EGM, and you guys had your own thing overseas. Now, at the very least,
Overseas.
very least,
That's what we are.
yeah, that's what you guys had.
The overseas category. Nobody
Are you
cares.
not overseas? Is that not an accurate description of where you are relative to me? How dare you make fun?
We are overseas, I guess.
Yeah, it's actually correct. Yeah, it's just.
But at
Sorry,
least
Paul, go for
today,
it.
no, not at all. At least today we have YouTube. I think YouTube is kind of like the big thing, because virtually anybody can just hop onto YouTube and you can at the very least see what the gameplay looks like, right? If nothing else, you don't get crappy screenshots on a sheet of paper. You actually get, motion and you can see, true. Right? So I don't think there's any question today is a better era, even though I still kind of pine for the days of the early 90s with the magazines and so on. But I don't think there's any question.
Yeah, I think for me, reviewing and publishing, it hit a big dip, a big low in around 2010. Let's just say 2010 for argument's sake. I just remember on IGN there was like a month leading up to Uncharted 2 being released, and they'd sold out completely.
Yeah, I remember that.
the website was just wall-to-wall Uncharted 2, Nathan Drake everywhere. And lo and behold, their reviewer gives it the best score he could ever give, and there's nothing wrong with the game.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed Uncharted 2, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I think it's my favourite of that series. But at that time, I was like, yeah, like IGN, they've got to pay wages. They've got to keep the site running. They've got to sell themselves and sell their space to the games industry. And so they're basically compromised, in my opinion. So I do think we're in a better place today. It's all about finding someone you trust, isn't it, really? If you find a YouTuber or two that you trust and a website that you trust or a writer, then, you know, you kind of go, oh, well, this person wrote it. Okay, I've enjoyed games they've lifted up in the past.
Yeah, exactly.
So, guys, let's take a break here, give the audience a rest, and then we'll come back and start talking about some movie knockoffs. Welcome back, everyone, to the second part of this look at Team 17. And we are, as I said, we're going to be looking at a bit of a movie knockoff. So, in these times, in the 90s, there were things called movies in cinemas. We're not used to that anymore. I watch all my movies via a dongle, so I don't know what a cinema is. I can barely remember seeing Jurassic Park in the cinema, let alone anything else.
Oh, man. That was a million years ago now.
Oh, God, doesn't it feel that way?
It really is.
We'll get back there one day. The good thing is the Marvel, the MCU is kind of done and they had to restart. So at least we've had a bit of a break from watching Marvel movies.
Thank God. I'm sorry. I don't know about you guys, but like when I had a weekend, I don't know, it was like 8 years ago or something, where on Saturday or Friday night, I saw Superman, Man of Steel. And then Saturday night, I saw the Wolverine movie where he goes to Japan, and I was like, that's it. I'm done. I can't deal with. I retired from superhero movies. I was done. But holy shit, man, they are not done with us. They just won't stop. I'm like you said, Jeff. I'm glad they're that they kind of wrapped up with Infinity War and so on. I mean, obviously they've got something else planned. It's a huge cash cow.
The third wave is coming or something like that, isn't it? Like
the third wave.
Yeah. None of us are safe.
MCU is like COVID.
None of us are safe.
Whether it's the MCU or COVID, it's coming back. Stronger than ever.
Or we'll be dead soon.
Oh, geez. Oh, geez. So, the reason why I'm talking about movie licenses is because there's a bit of a knockoff coming on here that Team 17 did. And it's actually a little bit of an enjoyable knockoff. It's not Terminator, it's not Superman. Even though Superman 3, that's the one with Richard Pryor, right? That was one of my favourite childhood movies. So thank you, Richard Pryor, for that one. God damn, it's terrible.
Oh, they're all so bad.
Can't get away from it. But this is the game called Alien Breed. Now, I know, flashing through everyone's mind right now, Alien Breed is that front cover. It's the Alien Xenomorph knockoff, haunting your very dreams. But this was a game, this was their second as a developer, came in 1991. It came from the Swedish gentleman we mentioned, Andreas Tadic, and Rico Holmes was the artist for this one. And this came out on the Amiga, obviously, scored pretty well across the board. A relatively repetitive game, which kind of brought things down, but it seemed to score in the 80s and 90s in the magazines that I could find at least. But yeah, man, it clearly wears its influence on its sleeve, and that's with the Alien movie franchise. I remember just seeing this image on every single car boot sale. Everyone had the magazines or the big Amiga boxes, and it just made me want to play it. I mean, Ryan, do you remember the front cover of Alien Breed?
I do remember it. Yeah, I honestly thought it was actually a part of the Aliens franchise because it looked exactly like a xenomorph. That's how bad it was. But As a game,
oh man, that's awesome.
Well, as a game, it was actually pretty good from what I recall. It kind of nailed that sort of Aliens atmosphere.
So this game, so it's basically a top-down shooter with the xenomorphs running around, where they basically they blow up when you shoot them. I mean, it's I don't know, Ryan. Did you manage to play this game back in the day?
I did, yes, because my best friend had an Amiga, so we did play it quite a fair amount. But we could never beat the damn thing. It was like impossibly hard, like really aggressively hard. So it was just one of those games where you assumed there was no ending, but you just kind of enjoyed it.
That is so funny because, like, well, shoot, man, this is the problem with YouTube, right? Like, I went onto YouTube to look up gameplay of Alien Breed, and I'm like, whoa, this game's so easy, right? Did you guys happen to see the final boss fight? I saw the final boss fight on YouTube.
I don't think I
did. You saw it,
no.
right? That is the most anticlimactic boss fight I've ever seen. Like, the guy took no damage. The boss barely attacked him. It was weird. I mean, obviously he knew, like, you know, some kind of pattern or secret or what have you. Just standing in the corner, it won't get you. But oh my goodness. And Jeff, the look of that boss.
Yeah. I can't believe they didn't get sued. I can't believe it. And even the sequel Alien Breed 2 is like, they're gonna get sued. Like, surely who was it who has the Alien franchise at the time? I can't remember. Whoever it was.
Yeah. I'm almost
maybe Fox Studios or something.
I'm almost sure I did read that they did ask the film company for their allowance of the IP or something like that. I'm sure they spoke to them. I'm almost sure that's a thing. I'm not making this up. Team 17.
No, I'm not saying you're making it up. I'm just saying it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine these days? Like, I go over to Disney and I'm like, hey, do you mind if I use Iron Man in my in my gotcha, you know, slide puzzle pornography Japanese style game? Like, it obviously it wouldn't work.
I love it, Paul. You always go back to that genre.
I do.
I gotcha genre.
It's stood the test of time.
It has. But what I also loved, I mean, Ryan, you're absolutely right. Like, these games in our childhood on the Amiga, they all felt impossible. All felt never-ending, endless flaws. You're doing the same thing over and over again. And when I looked at the long play for this one, it's like from start to finish to do it perfectly, like the guy was doing. It's like 2.5 hours. It's like, I mean, I recently completed Dark Souls, and that requires you to do something perfect for 20 minutes to like defeat a boss. You've got to do it perfectly, but not 2.5 hours worth.
Yeah. Oh, you can't save during it, can you? I actually didn't even notice that.
No.
Yeah.
And it's 2 hours. That's great.
So I salute all these long players of Amiga games. Well done, ladies and gentlemen.
Doing God's work.
Whoever you are, doing God's work. So what I also really enjoy, again, I always seem to fall back on this one, Paul, don't I? About British humour that we kind of lace within our games and within everything we do. But on the once you defeat this big alien queen, let's not lie, it's basically the alien queen. Instead of like a flashy ending, like a wall of text comes up and says, look, to be honest with you, we didn't have much memory left. We decided to use that memory to build more levels for you to enjoy rather than a flashy ending, which doesn't really do anything for you. And it's just extra work for us. So basically enjoy what we've done for you.
That sounds very British. A very British way of ending the game.
Exactly. And then as well, I think they even said, look, if you got here because you did a cheat to get to the ending, then you suck, and we hope you're happy. And by the way, we're working on a sequel, so enjoy that.
That takes me back to my Dizzy days. Like, you beat Dizzy, and it'll be like, congratulations, the next game is on the way. Hope you look forward to it.
But this particular wall of text for Alien Breed is like, it's the most ridiculous ending I've ever seen, I think. The fact...
Does it have spelling errors, though?
No, it doesn't. Well, it's not Japanese developed, Ryan, so
fair enough.
At the very least, it doesn't have any of those. But, dear God, like, the fact that they're like, we're going to give you a crappy ending so we can put more levels into this game that is fucking possible to beat and is going to take 2.5 hours. Guys, take out half an hour of those levels and add an ending. Like, that'll actually serve me better. It won't make me want to kill myself.
And it seems like that repetitive nature of it is what made it at the time quite a few publications go, yeah, it's good, but it's just the same thing over and over again. And yeah, I mean, I remember that when I was, even playing games today, or from that era of, if you make me do the same thing over and over again, you lost me. You lost me.
Yeah.
But to be fair to them, these are like 19, 20-year-old kids who have just been given probably a small contract to make a game, and they don't have that worldly experience. They're just going to keep doing what they know.
Yeah.
No, it's an early effort. It's like almost every other early effort of the era. We played those games because they were there, and everybody was just kind of learning. We didn't know what sucked, really.
Exactly.
It was just a video game, and so we played it.
That's all we had at the time. So
yeah,
that's what we had to deal with. Yeah. So for all you listeners who are interested in Alien Breed, you can even get it on the Vita. So before the Vita shop closes, go download it on the Vita. I think it's both that and the sequel. I don't think the 3D games went onto the Vita. Obviously, the 3D games sound as bad as they probably are. Let's be honest. Anything in 94, 95 that was 3D.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Or am I being a bit harsh here, Ryan? You sound like you're gonna.
I have seen Alien Breed 3D, either 1 or 2, and I remember it just being a very average Doom clone because they look exactly like Doom.
Well, if nothing else, even if you don't get it on the Vita, and I mean, after this glowing review we just gave it, I can't imagine that you won't go out and grab it immediately.
Yeah, go out.
But if nothing else, I would recommend just checking out that long play and going to the end and reading the ending sequence. It's like you said, Jeff. I mean, great example of overseas humor combined with like early 90s, bro-ish mentality. It's something.
And I think as well, if you watch 1 minute of the early levels, then you'll know exactly what the gameplay is for the rest of the game. So don't worry about.
It almost looks exactly the same too. Like the environments don't really change. Yeah, it's a good concept though. I mean, like those kind of games were popular for a reason. Soldiers of Fortune, or overseas they called it Chaos Engine. Those kind of games were popular for a reason. Yeah, it's a good concept.
Exactly, and we even had, we're talking about difficult games, Xenocrisis is one of many, is that kind of homage to that era, to those games, and that is tough as nails. That is a really hard game if you want to get into a modern, tough indie game. I don't know if either of you boys have played that one.
I've seen it, it looks really good. I have done Smash TV, if that counts, because that's like a top-down shooter thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, twin stick, a little bit more action-oriented, I'd say, but yeah.
So with Team 17, before we get to their big hit, they did produce because they're British, they produced a lovely platformer called Super Frog.
Oh.
Yes, I know. That's the sound of Ryan going, oh, did you have to mention that one? Yeah. It's a Frog and the Princess story where a witch turns the character into a frog, and you end up being the frog with a cape, and you have to do a load of platforming to go and rescue her.
No, you got it all wrong, Jeff.
Did I get it all wrong?
Yeah, he drinks a bottle of Lucozade, and then he turns into a super frog. Then he goes off to save the princess.
I missed.
Vital story.
But did they get the rights for Lucozade, or were they naughty there?
I'm sure they did. I think they wanted a beer license at first, which would have been hilarious.
But is that over in Canada, Paul?
Oh, no, I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
Oh, yeah. Ryan, please.
Oh, Lucozade is one of those energy drinks. I've not had one in years.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. And it's called Lucozade?
Yeah.
Lucozade, yeah.
I remember getting addicted to those, basically. It keeps you up all night.
Oh, my goodness.
I think it was a drink if you had anything in hospital, because it's basically a glucose drink.
That's right.
Obviously, they would be giving that to people to kind of help build up their glucose levels after kind of a. So it's like like a lot of things started off medicinally, but now it's a whole sports thing, right? So everything starts off medicinal, doesn't it?
Now it's a product.
Now it's a product. So yeah, I don't know. Ryan, did you play this? Because I know you love your platformers.
I'm afraid I did play Super Frog, yeah. I'll just say you're not really missing much if you haven't played it. It's basically your classic... Well, I'd probably compare it to Zool, where you're just basically running around levels, collecting items, so you can open up the exit to get to the next level. I'm almost sure they did a HD remake of it, and I was like, no, I don't want to play Super Frog in HD. Thanks anyway, though. Yeah.
Great stuff. Oh dear. So with the obligatory platformer done, thank God, we can go on to what Team 17 are actually known for. What made them the monolith of British gaming that they are today, and they're still bringing out this IP if and when they need to, and that is the 1995 hit Worms.
Oh yes.
And boys, this is the one where I think we're going to have the most to not pour scorn over. I think it's going to be a nice change for Team 17. So this one, get some quick facts fired and get them out of the way. So created by programmer Andy Davidson. He actually had to take this game. So they weren't Worms at the time, but he had this kind of demo of a game called Wormage or Total Wormage. And he took it to a trade fair in London back in '94 because he was getting pushbacks from publishers. And he ended up impressing Team 17, and they struck a deal with him to get it developed and properly out there. So that's again, it's one of those things where it's just one person with an idea, able to do a bit of programming, able to get it's basically artillery warfare simulation. Rather than, like Missile Command, where you're kind of defending your base, you're basically attacking people on that kind of strip of land within a base. That's kind of what he was going after. But it wasn't until he joined Team 17 that they started building what became Worms. So I can't believe I'm going to be doing this, but just in case any of our listeners don't know what Worms is, so I'm going to try and paint what Worms looks like. So imagine Lemmings. So if you don't know what Lemmings is, I suggest you go back to previous episodes we did. But imagine a Lemmings style landscape. So you got essentially a landscape that you can destroy, you can damage, you can kind of blow up, you can kind of go through it, kind of like what the Lemmings could do with their different abilities. And instead of having Lemmings and them all marching along in single file, you've got teams of small worm-like characters who have got abilities like what Lemmings did, but instead you had a time frame in which you can initiate those attacks and try to take out the opposing team's set of worms. There's your usual Lemmings hazard, there's water, there's kind of like Iggledy-piggledy. That's the best word I could think of, as British as I'm going to get, because that was awful. Landscape, which really complicated matters. So it's very tactical. It really gets you thinking. It gets you thinking about geometry. So if you're mad into your angles and into your physics, Worms was something that you either detested or you absolutely loved, like some of my friends did. And the best thing for me was just how great of a cooperative, collaborative, and downright abusive game it was between friends. So, Ryan, tell me, how did you first get to play Worms, and when was the first time that you realised that you had to get good at it?
Gosh. I did play the original Worms on an Amiga, and I think it was like you said, the graphics looked a little bit like Lemmings, so that's what immediately drew me into it, because I really loved Lemmings at the time.
Yeah,
and I think me and my friends just had gigantic tournaments But yeah, you could get like crazy good at it just by mastering ropes, I think it was.
They were quite agile worms. I mean, not as agile as Earthworm Jim, but still pretty good. Paul, how about yourself?
I enjoyed it as a single player experience, which is a really nice way of apparently saying I was very lonely. But you couldn't play it on PC with multiple players in any realistic way, honestly. So that's how I played it. I played it on Windows PC, but it was such a cool game. Like, even, it's the same story over and over, right? Like, it was a new concept, and if you have a new game concept that works, it's enthralling. I hadn't played anything like Worms before, and it was a good game, and it was charming, right? Like, if you replace those little worms with, whatever, toy soldiers or robots or something like that, the game just doesn't work. It doesn't work as well. The fact that you have these cute little worms with their high-pitched voices pulling out these crazy weapons and killing each other, that's part of the charm. It was a really fun game.
Yep. And so you talk about the weapons, Paul, and I think that's what I loved, especially, and we're already jumping around here, but I think it was Worms Armageddon, which had that's when they started bringing in some crazy weaponry. But I loved the randomness of the sheep attack.
Oh yeah.
You were never quite sure if it was going to backfire in your face. Because essentially, just to kind of, explain, so the weapons were, you could go from really simple things like an Uzi or a shotgun, or even like a bit of a bazooka situation going on. But you also had like banana bombs, you had homing missiles, you had the holy hand grenade.
Yeah, that's right.
Which you can't get more British than the holy hand grenade.
Oh, so good.
There was the Hadouken. I think that came in. I think the worm would even put on a bandana and do things like that.
Yeah. So
it was
concrete donkey. Was that in Armageddon? I'm trying to think.
It was a concrete donkey, essentially falling from the sky and taking out everyone. So one of I think for me the reason why it did so well with my group of friends was just because it was so tactical. Once you strip past its nice little humour and the little quips, like you're saying, Paul, like what the worms were saying, like first blood and things like that, when they were, I'll get you, and all that sort of like stuff. That's as high as I can go, actually. It's quite impressive. I'm not even sure the microphone could pick it up. It was so high pitched. But yeah, the weaponry is really, and the way it would change your tactics. And what you could see friends doing, especially the friends who would end up playing it like you were doing, Paul, on their own, and they would learn how to use those ninja ropes properly. There was a lot of depth behind this one. Paul, if once you got past Worms and you were doing, you were playing it on your own, did you manage to play this one against other people? Because the AI you can kind of predict and you can manage that. But did you play this against other people in the later games?
No, my ego went unhurt. So
you
really
are invincible. Nice.
Yeah. It was just me. It was just me versus the computer. In all honesty, I only really ever played the original MS-DOS version. The later versions that came out, for the N64 and so on and so forth. Like, I gotta say, man, I was doing some reading. I had no idea they had released so many Worms games. It's freaking crazy, man. But yeah, no, I only really ever played the original. I never came back to it.
Yeah. But is it something that, if you add a bit of an online element to it, do you think it's something that would still go down well in your household? Or is it
absolutely.
A bit too...
No. It would be fantastic. We used to play a game similar to it. I've mentioned this on the show before, a hidden game on the Sega Saturn called Death Tank. And Death Tank was basically Worms, but with fewer weapons, crappier graphics, if that can be believed, and it was all in real time, right? So whereas with Worms, you have time to set up your shots, with Death Tank, it was all done simultaneously. So the concept is solid, whether it's real time or whether you're setting things up. I would absolutely play that now, yeah.
How about yourself, Ryan? Paul mentioned how many Worms games there are, and I think if you start counting it, I think it goes above 20.
It does go pretty crazy.
Yeah, I think it does.
And there is even a new one coming out.
Yeah.
I mean, how tempted are you?
I'm not sure what to make of the new one, but
Yeah.
it looks a little bit odd. But I'm willing to give it a try because they did try shaking up the formula quite a few times. Like I did
With the pinball.
yeah, with a pinball. They made the series into 3D as well, which was better than you might think.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that because I
Yeah.
gotta say from looking at the 3D ones, I mean, look, it suffers from every 3D conversion, which is I start off they're guilty until proven innocent. Really, is what it is. If I see a 3D conversion of a 2D game, I'm like, this is gonna suck.
Yeah,
until
I know what you mean.
somebody can prove to me that it doesn't. So when I saw Worms 3D, I was like,
I'd say Worms 3D is different to like classic Worms, but it's still pretty good. I think the first Worms 3D was just all right. Like me and my friends played it for a while and we just got a bit bored of it. But some of the later revisions they did of that did slowly get much, much better. I know it's got compared to another game called Hogs of War. I've not played that before.
No, I remember that one though.
Yeah.
no, I hadn't heard of it until you mentioned it right now. What a great name.
But no, I think I'm kind of someone who stuck with the series since the first game. But it's kind of interesting to see them experiment with them.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Ryan, that seems to come back quite a bit when you dig into this series. They are willing to change it up, but there's also that element of they weren't able to let go of Worms.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they couldn't. They seem to just think, okay, this is going to bankroll us forever.
This is their paycheck, I guess, just making another Worms game.
But they're right, though. I mean, that's been their cash cow.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't say I really blame them. And I quite happily buy a good online version of Worms for my Switch. I don't know why I haven't bought the new one yet. Actually, I wouldn't mind playing that.
It's one of those games for me where I would definitely want to give it a go on a new console.
Yeah,
but I know within playing it online after 20 minutes and everyone beating me, I'll be like, okay,
that's enough.
I've had enough. That's enough.
Yeah.
Has the new one come out yet? Worms Rampage, I think, is what it's called. Is it? I know it was in beta for a while,
Rumble,
but is it
Rumble?
out now?
Worms Rumble, I think it was.
Oh, Rumble. Yeah.
I don't know if it's come out yet. I haven't played Worms.
It looks so different.
They're going for the battle. This whole battle royale.
Yeah, I think they're trying to jump into that.
It looks like a fun game. It just doesn't look like a Worms game. I think that might be where they run into some issues with it.
It's a funny one because when you take a very tactical game and turn it into real time, you can really suffer. I mean, when you look at recent game this year, like even Final Fantasy VII Remake, you went from quite a static battle system to being very fluid, and it mostly kind of nailed it all the way through. You didn't feel like you were being punished for it being real time versus the ATB system.
Yeah.
But with Worms, once you take away the tactics and it becomes a free for all, it's just not Worms anymore.
I think I agree.
I'm sort of getting Smash Brothers vibes from Rumble. I think it is.
Yeah, which is, I mean, and this is where Team 17 are now. They don't rely on Worms anymore, and they can afford to kind of do a little bit of try something new. But it does look to me like they're just trying to jump onto the bandwagon of the whole Fortnite type hype.
Yeah.
I saw some really funny comments where people are saying you can forget this being popular unless it goes free to play. So it's like, wow, gamers are saying to publishers and developers, I'm not going to play this unless it's free. It's like, cool.
I know. But I mean, you almost can't blame them.
This is the expectation. No,
but
exactly.
But it's not. I mean, you have millions of people, millions and millions and millions of people weaned on Fortnite. Why wouldn't they expect everything to be free, right? Even though that's kind of, unrealistic. Yeah. But that's the expectation. I'm not terribly surprised.
So I feel that that's mostly it for Worms. It's a game that, if you love your tactical, military espionage, this could be it. It's just a great game to play with some friends. You get to see who's actually really quite good at understanding, as I said, understanding physics and geometry. Yeah. I think this came out. You can even pick it up if you're a retro collector. This came out. Ocean published it, another British publishing house. They picked it up and helped Team 17 get it out onto the consoles at the time, because Team 17 were only an Amiga or PC based publisher. But it seems to be, I mean, for me, I remember Worms 2 and Armageddon having a lot of fun with them.
Yeah.
Great cartoon style, wonderful animation, good sense of humor.
Ryan, if I was to get into a Worms game today, knowing that I've only ever played the first one, and you seem to have played far more than I have, which one should I get?
I think it's usually Worms Armageddon, which is considered as the best Worms game. I think that came out back in 2000, but you can still play it today. It's like being modded. It's got a lot of fan support, so you can quite easily play your old PC copy of Worms Armageddon and still play it on your modern devices.
Okay. Does it make for a good retro game? I think it was on the N64.
Yeah,
maybe
it was on
the Dreamcast.
I'm sure I played it on the Dreamcast actually, but
yeah, I remember it on the PlayStation.
Yeah, it was probably on the PlayStation as well. I'd probably recommend checking it out on PC because you get all the different mods and things like that.
Yeah.
Which makes those sort of console versions obsolete.
Yeah. But, I'm sure if you go onto GOG, it's probably going to be, a couple of quid.
Yeah.
I'm almost sure somebody
That's
told
probably
me.
the best way to go about it.
I'm almost sure somebody told me his original PC copy recently got updated. Just as early as this year, I think. So there's
That's
still
incredible.
A strong community for it. I'd recommend checking out that one.
All right, then. Duly noted.
Okay, guys. So we'll take another break here, and then we will be back with Team 17 as we know them today. Welcome back, everyone, to the third part of this look at Team 17. And now we're going to be looking at what Team 17 have essentially become really well known for now, which is being a bit of a strong publisher, especially for the indie scene. There was a period where, when you look at their history, where they were heavily reliant, like we said, on Worms. And you can't sustain a development and publishing house on a small franchise, small IP like that. You need to be able to branch off, and that's what Team 17 managed to do incredibly well. And it's why, like we said, they're worth now nearly $1 billion, which is just, for a company that's publishing indie games.
Oh my God.
It's a fantastic job that they've done there.
Yeah.
So how did they get there? Essentially, what happened was they had a manager buyout back in around 2010. So some of the original creators or the foundation of the company, they stepped aside and they paved the way for Debbie Bestwick to step up. She took a bit more of a controlling stake, and then they got investment from Lloyd's, from an investment arm of Lloyd's TSB, which is a bank over here in the UK. So that's how Team 17 got their financial security. But more importantly, what they did was they managed to see the future for themselves in the modern gaming scene without needing to make any AAA games. And I think that is something that having that vision in the early teens, I guess you could call it, or maybe even 2010, 2011, to be able to see indie can be a way that we can survive and keep going. That's some fantastic business acumen and vision to have.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I think it was about 2013 that that Bestwick kind of figured it out. Like, hey, indie games, I think, are the future, and we're gonna see if we can develop a model where we can not necessarily publish the games, but kind of work with the developers. It's actually a very unique situation. They don't even really publish per se. They just kind of offer tools and development resources to indie game developers, and they get to keep their own IP. The only IP that I think Team 17 owns is Worms, and a few others. I think they actually own Overcooked now, but a lot of those games, the ukuleles and so on, those games are still owned by their original developers.
Exactly. Yeah, and what a list, actually. When you look through it,
oh man,
there's I think we could reel off a number of games here that I think majority of our listeners have played at least one of them.
Yeah.
You can't escape Team 17. So when you the one that jumps out at me, which is what, Ryan, I'd love to kind of pick your brain on.
Hooray.
It's a dark world in there, but let's try. Is ukulele.
Yeah.
So convince me, Ryan. Why should I play this game?
Indeed, convince me.
Well, I don't know if you guys are aware, but there are 2 ukulele games.
Yes.
I think the first one is the one everyone's more familiar with. And I wouldn't say that game's a disappointment, because I played it and enjoyed it, because I do like my sort of crappy 3D platformers. But
what's the inspiration behind ukulele? Is it like the old N64 platformers? Because that was always the impression.
Yeah, it kind of feels that way. Like it just kind of misses the mark for me, though. Like, I can still enjoy it, but I'd probably put it on the level of I'd say Tonic Trouble on the N64. Like, and not great, but it's an okay 3D platformer.
Nice. Digging deep. Tonic Trouble.
Yeah. People do compare it to Donkey Kong 64, because it's just got an unbearable amount of collectibles. But the thing is, Donkey Kong 64 was kind of smart with its collectibles. Like, they'd have little breadcrumb trails dotted around the levels. Whereas in ukulele, it'll just be like clumps of items hidden away somewhere, which makes it like really annoying to try and 100% the level.
Oh.
So it just kind of misses that mark. Like, it's good, and I'd recommend it if you like sort of clunky 3D platformers.
Mm-hmm.
I love this sales job.
It's
a bit crap, but definitely check it out.
So then what about the sequel then? Was it Impossible Lair?
The Impossible Lair, yeah. I really enjoyed the Impossible Lair. I thought it was...
So what did they get right this time then?
They basically switched it up to a 2D platformer. So it's like, let's make it like our old Donkey Kong Country games. And it's like, it really does feel like an old Donkey Kong Country game.
Oh.
Okay.
It's the only thing it's lacking. Like, it's got really clever level design and all that jazz, but the only thing it's lacking is just the sort of great art direction and the budget, I'd say.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a little bit lacking in that area. I know there was a recent patch for it that kind of improved the final level of the game. Because in the original version, like, you had to go through this massive slog of a level, which lasted an hour.
Oh my lord.
That's unbearable.
Yeah, in the patch, you could sort of get checkpoints and things like that, I think, which made it feel a bit more fair.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'd say definitely check that one out. That was like a really genuinely great platformer. I'd say it's almost on the same level as the Rareware Donkey Kong Countries, but it's just lacking the budget.
Does it have quite tight platforming and jumping then? Is it quite spot on?
Yeah,
with that?
I'd say it felt really good to play. Like, when you die, it feels like it's your fault. It's that sort of platformer.
Yeah, but as I think with a lot of things, if your core gameplay and that hook is there, then you can always look past a little bit of the that if you've got poor performance and you just it's a bit like with when Streets of Rage 4 came out. The big question was, when you punch someone, do you get that feeling of that connection?
Yeah.
And when you're doing a platformer, you need that feeling of, when I land on something, I'm not skidding around, I'm not floating.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
There's something quite tangible in the connection between the character and the world.
I am a stickler for good controls in a platformer, so I would say it felt really good to play in this one.
So that gets a bare paw of approval.
A bare seal of approval, yeah.
Yeah.
Go buy it now.
And then when you look through the list, I think the one that jumps out at me, just because everybody seemed to absolutely love this, and I I haven't got round to it because I don't have any friends. And my wife doesn't play video games. That's Overcooked from Ghost Town Games. Which is now owned by Team 17. I think, Paul, you've mentioned Overcooked. Is there?
I've played it. I've played it quite a few times. If there's a game, it's really funny. If there's a game that you could get your wife to play, Overcooked would be, really high on that list. The problem is that it'll end up with you divorcing her, or her. Actually, more likely, her divorcing you. But yeah, man, it's such a cool game. Like this is the brilliance, I think, of Team 17 in a nutshell in the modern era, which is that it's not just that they're helping to develop and publish indie games. It's the fact that a lot of these indie games are very original in concept. There was no Overcooked before Overcooked, right? There was no Escapists before Escapists. And you can go down their catalog and you'll see example after example of this phenomenon. Ukulele, we've done that, but there are going to be exceptions, right? The key with Overcooked is that you've never played it, and it's so simple, man. I think there's 2 buttons. So, like I was saying, Jeff, your wife could pick it up and not freak out about it. I know with my wife, if I hand her a PlayStation controller and I'm like, no, not square, triangle, she's like, all right, fuck this, I'm out, right? So limiting the action to 2 buttons is really key, right? And it's so cool. Like it's this game where you have to coordinate with everyone to prepare and serve meals. And it's a top-down view, kind of 3/4 top-down view, but whatever. The concept is the same. And, one person grabs the ingredients, they pass it to the other person chops them up, they pass it to the next person fries them on the stove, and then they pass it to the next person and they serve the meal, right? Sounds simple. The thing is that the environments change, right? Like the kitchen will kind of tilt to one side and then a countertop will move, and you kind of have to reorganize who does which tasks on the fly. And the recipes change during the level as well, so the ingredients change and so on. And what ends up happening is if you're playing with people for the first time, everybody's very polite and nothing actually gets done, right? Because we're all just kind of we're kind of quiet and we're kind of figuring out, okay, I guess that guy's getting the onions, so I'll just go over here and chop them, except somebody else in your group is like, well, that guy's getting the onions, so I'm going to go over here and chop them. And then meanwhile, nobody's actually making the meal itself. So inevitably, what ends up happening is the game devolves into one person in the group just kind of yelling at everyone else and people getting pissed off at that person. And if your friends are really good, then everybody will laugh about it. And if it's, and if you yell perhaps a little bit too hard, then you end up in divorce court. And that's really just all part of the fun. It's a fantastic concept, and it's really, in my mind, emblematic of what Team 17 is all about.
You're really selling me on it here. I kind of want to play it now.
Yeah, if I didn't involve the word crappy in it, I think was the key.
Is it only a local co-op?
I don't know. Actually, I've never tried playing it online co-op. It's only ever been a couch multiplayer game for me. Shit, I wish I had looked it up. I would have.
No, but
I would have known the answer.
Like it looks like a game that you'd want to play on a couch with other people. It doesn't look like you want to play online, really. But
I mean, you can play it online, sure, but you have to be able to talk with the other people. There's no question. Like you can't just be running around, just kind of doing stuff. Like you can get away with that in. If you're playing Call of Duty, you don't necessarily have to talk to other people to be successful, but it just enhances the experience, right?
It's just really obvious when you're playing against a team that are talking to each other.
Oh my god, then you get slaughtered. But in Overcooked, you have to be able to verbally communicate with people.
Mm-hmm. So for me, out of this list, the one that I played a lot of is Blasphemous, which is the Metroidvania. So it's a bit of a cliche, a Metroidvania in today's market. I think every month there's a new Metroidvania coming out now. Yeah. But this one has the genius tweak of being a bit like Dark Souls. So maybe not quite original as I thought.
Does it have pixel art?
And it has pixel art. Wait a minute.
Oh my god!
And how?
So, all jokes aside, Blasphemous is, I would say, it's the Metroidvania I've enjoyed the most over the last few years. And it's not because I'm sadistic. It's not because I like very macabre Spanish type Gothic European art.
Yeah,
it's because it is very pleasurable to play when you nail fights with bosses. When you have to go back again and again and perfect your dodging or your deflecting and your attacks. It has that feeling that what Dark Souls gives me, which is that when you defeat a boss, you get that huge rush and that relief.
Yeah.
And you can't, I mean, when you look at the game, I think most people here would have seen the videos promoting it either on YouTube or via the directs. It is gory.
Yeah.
And fucking weird. I mean, when you're splitting open like horses' heads and there's unborn babies and priests in coffins and all sorts of things that are, or something it's like a bull's head even. It is. Yeah. It's one of those. It's one of those things that I always wonder to myself. This looks amazing, but what goes through someone's head to create this?
Indeed.
It's just like that scene in Event Horizon when they watched a video of what people are doing once they kind of the whole hell and the spaceship merges and there's that weird stuff that goes on. It's like, this is weird, but a creative person had to think about that. And that's what I felt with Blasphemous. Just like, this is in someone's head. This is... Yeah, I'd be asking questions. It is, a little bit grotesque. Have either of you boys played Blasphemous, or is it just me?
I haven't. I've heard good things about it. It's been on my to-do list for quite a while now.
Yeah.
Is the Switch port any good? I wouldn't mind trying it on the Switch, actually.
There's a couple of bugs, but all in all, like between playing it remote and playing it off the TV and on, pretty solid performer. Yeah, and cheap.
I might check it out on Switch.
I wasn't interested in it until we actually started, researching this episode. Because, honestly, guys, these days, one Metroidvania just kind of looks like another Metroidvania, just kind of looks like another. And, I can only play so many of those. I think the problem was Axiom Verge really kind of... it was a good game, but after Axiom Verge, I was like, fuck, I'm kind of done with these for a while. And I regret that now because, I really should have played Blasphemous. Now that I've seen what it looks like and exactly what kind of game it is, there was a physical version available for a while. Fuck, I really wish I had gotten that one, but I think I'll just wait for it to go on sale and buy it on the Switch store anyway. It looks really good.
I think I picked it up for $10.
Yeah, exactly.
Or I don't know how many Canadian dollars that is, but 10 US.
Yeah, it's not terribly expensive, but it's just like you said, Jeff. The art direction alone is probably worth the price of admission. Gameplay notwithstanding, I would probably just want to go to the next level just to see what it looks like and just to see what kind of crazy macabre stuff they've come up with there. It looks so cool. I mean, there's that one cutscene where there's a woman and she's got swords stuck in her, 6 swords, and then she just pulls one out and here, take this sword. And I'm like, oh dear God, leave it in there, leave it in there.
Yeah, it's what is it? The blood pours out. He fills up at the helmet that the character's wearing, so the blood fills up the helmet. Then he puts it on his head.
Oh, okay. It's like the ice bucket challenge.
What was it? It's like an Iron Maiden. Constantly he's wearing an Iron Maiden. It's just weird. And this, I do agree, Paul, though. I mean, on one hand, now you've got like a massive backlog of Metroidvanias that you can go to. So you can pick and choose the one that really suits your dark fantasies. Or not, maybe. But at the moment, it still feels like it's like, well, what's the gimmick this time? Well, the gimmick this time is that you're a 17-year-old girl who can shapeshift between dimensions to, and you're like, okay.
Cool. Do I move left to right? Okay, I've done it before.
Exactly. Is there a save room? All right. Yeah. And do I get abilities as I go? Yeah. All right.
But I mean, that really is kind of reductive, right? Like, these games do all, I shouldn't say all, but many of them offer something unique and a lot of fun. And just from looking at Blasphemous, yeah, I would say so too. I really like the ability to kind of parry, that, or was it parry or block there, Jeff? What exactly is that thing you do in Blasphemous?
It's a parry.
It's a parry, yeah. Like the parry and dodge. Any 2D kind of platforming game these days, or virtually any kind of action game, I definitely want to dodge. There has to be some kind of button I can press that grants me some frames of invincibility and gets me out of the way. But it's key though. Like it gives these games so much flow. And when I saw that in Blasphemous, the dodge and the parry, like, that's a foundation upon which you can build a good game.
Yeah,
definitely.
And at the end of the day, it's Dark Souls in pixel art form on a 2D. So that's exactly basically what you need to do in Dark Souls. So if you haven't played that yet, Paul, definitely do that. Because that's just. I mean, I just beat it because I'm just that good at games. Defeated Gwyn, no big deal. But you can pretty much do the whole final boss in Dark Souls just by parrying.
Oh wow!
But you got to be good, obviously.
Oh, obviously.
He's got the skills.
Got the skills. I just don't get the pay. So, looking at Team 17, I mean, they've got, if I just do a quick count, in 2020 alone, the year of all years, is they have 9 games coming out this year. They are a busy publisher.
Yeah.
They are.
That's pretty impressive.
The one that came out recently that I know a lot of people have been pimping out and talking about is Moving Out.
Yes. Because that looks like I don't want to reduce it and call it an Overcooked clone, but it looks like a similar kind of game where you're cooperating with other people and each people kind of has their task, and then everybody eventually just starts yelling at each other. And that sounds like a lot. It doesn't sound like a lot of fun, but in practice, it actually is. And Moving Out, it's been on my radar for a little while now. The problem is Overcooked, just no pun intended, still has a lot of meat on it, and we keep going back to it. So there's almost no value for me in trying Moving Out, but for a lot of people there will be, because like our patron João, who's in the chat, just mentioned, like, he's platinumed Overcooked. So yeah, I'd recommend Moving Out in that case.
And that does feel like such. I love the fact that these games exist. I wish that I had the household to play them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because as much as I love Dark Souls and I love being good at Dark Souls, I can't be that arrogant. I'm too English. I love Dark Souls, but sometimes you just want to have a bit of fun. You don't want to be punished. You just want a bit of fun. You want a bit of mayhem. You want to shout at the person next to you because they're not doing their job. You want a little bit of that. So I'm glad I really am glad that Team 17 are the ones doing this, because there's a nice little bit of legacy there on a company that has started literally at the very bottom.
Yeah, they really did, and they're just so good at what they do now. Like, all their games, they have this kind of like. If you look at like Neon Abyss, for example, like all the marketing design, everything around them, it's all very colorful. Like Moving Out, same thing. It all looks really good. They really know what they're doing. They know how to market these games, and they know which ones to pick as well. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen gameplay of Neon Abyss, but that's another one. Like, it looks like your standard kind of, I wouldn't call it a Metroidvania per se, because you have a gun, and that kind of seems to be the. Well, anyway, I guess Samus has a gun, but regardless, it's a 2D platformer, but, you know, with a little bit of a twist, which we just finished making fun of. But it has a certain aesthetic to the design and to the packaging and to the presentation that Team 17 now really seems to have nailed. It doesn't even matter what kind of game they're presenting to me now. I want to play it just because of that presentation that they offer.
Yeah. And I think that's one hell of a legacy to have. Yeah. And it's, I was just thinking, you know, when we'd done the previous episodes and the other companies that we have on the list to do, and that's going to go into next year now, they all stop at some point. There's this kind of finality to it all, and you get a little bit sad because you go, oh well, what a shame that's ended. But this is the one of the very few success stories from a British side, at least, of a publisher that is able to ride the wave, able to stave off EA or whoever it is normally that comes along, and they've been able to keep their identity, but also pave the way for gaming as we know it today. And I think that's a legacy that Team 17. I'm so glad that it's them. I'm so glad that they're still around. As much as Worms is their big thing, they just seem to understand what makes a good game.
Yeah, they really do. All credit to Debbie Bestwick for kind of lifting them up and being, you know, frankly, being one of the few really significant women in gaming these days. Like the fact that she, you know, kind of had that vision, pulled them out, and now is, you know, wealthy beyond my own imagining. It's really remarkable. Has a lot of shares. Yeah. Oh man. Did you know she's also got she also received the, what was it called again? She's a member of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire for her service in the video. Yeah, she is.
Oh, she's an MBE.
So okay, so you guys know what this is, because to me, the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, I'm sorry, it sounds hilarious. It really does. It sounds like something out of a Bill and Ted movie.
It does sound like it's out of Star Wars or something.
But it's a big deal, isn't it?
Yeah.
No,
I did not know that. Impressive.
No, me neither. That is, I mean, MBE, there's OBE, there's obviously knighthoods that are handed out to all people you've never heard of. And some people you have. But I think I'm so sorry, Debbie, if you're listening. But she's 50 years of age, to been in the gaming industry since the late 80s, to have, you know, gotten Team 17 to rise up to where it is, to have an MBE. That's a full of life achievement. So congratulations to her. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. So with that lovely little bit of eulogy, I think that's it with us with Team 17. Thank you, my Commonwealth partners and dignitaries.
Go Team Commonwealth.
Team Commonwealth, high five. Maybe one day we'll get a Kiwi and an Aussie on, and we'll try and do some sort of cross-continental Commonwealth fun. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we'll see. Otherwise, none of us will be able to understand each other, even though we're speaking English.
We'll all be pronouncing our P's and our Q's and making sure we're all fully enunciate so that we're not confusing each other. Let's try. But thank you, Ryan. Thank you for joining us. Been a pleasure.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you. It's been fun.
And of course, thank you, Paul.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure as always.
And of course, but more importantly, thank you for our listeners. Thank you for those who've been listening to us live. Wow, the wonders of the internet. Who are people who are able to see just how unprofessional and unorganized we truly are. Again, if you want to find us or anywhere, you can find us on quite a few places actually. So you can obviously find us over on Instagram, which is the account run by the wonderful esteemed Arnie, a Region 3 Gaming Podcast. You've got us on Twitter, but without it's without the S, isn't it, at the end?
That's correct, yeah. Because of the character limit, we are Region 3 Gamer.
Very lonely.
Very lonely Twitter handle.
There's only one.
And of course, you can find us on all of your podcasting platforms of choice, ideally. thank you very much, gentlemen. And
It's
I
been a
shall
pleasure.
see you all in the future, I hope.
I hope so too. Take care.